All right, welcome back in, everybody. And it is Damian Lillard watch down here in Miami. It continues, and so we go to one of the best voices in all of National Basketball Association coverage. Rachel Nichols joining us here, who's doing fantastic work with Showtime Basketball, with her show Headliners, What's Burning on Showtime. Rachel, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
You know, I always love coming on. Once you live in Miami, this is your home station.
Of
That's just the
course.
bottom line.
Of course. I appreciate it. The whole Damian Lillard thing, I guess your first reaction, Rachel, you've seen trade demands before, but he's kind of a different one because, everybody thought, maybe Damian Lillard would stick it out forever in Portland. I understand why he's doing it, but your first reaction when the bomb dropped that Damian Lillard is officially asking out of the Portland Trail Blazers.
I mean, there was a bunch of signals, right? All summer, it kind of felt like it was coming. He went on a podcast and talked about potential places he himself, right? So that's a good sign. And then, and of course, the place he said was Miami, and just increasing frustration that we've heard from him over the years. I think it's one of the cleanest trade requests I've ever seen. Maybe him and Kevin Garnett asking out of Minnesota. He gave us the best he could for the longest he could. The franchise didn't really do right by him. So we're happy to see him go off and try to win a title somewhere else. So I think the immediate reaction for me was kind of seeing how the Blazers fans didn't turn on him the way we see so often with trade requests. And also sort of thinking, okay, now we're getting a sense of the field and who his first choice is.
With him picking Miami and making it very clear that that's where he wants to go, what have you made, I guess, of the reaction that he basically has a one-team list? And I guess now, obviously, very down here, we're thrilled. I mean, we've been waiting since Jimmy's come down here. We've been waiting for that next orca to kind of swim up to Jimmy and join Pat Riley and all that stuff with him and Bam. So we're thrilled down here. But what have you made, I guess, of the reaction nationally of him basically having a one-team list? And, people saying, oh, the Blazers should do right by the Blazers, or should you do right by Dame, who's been as class a guy his entire career as it gets?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can look at it both ways. Certainly the idea that he has a one-team list and that it's Miami, people think, okay, great, that makes sense. That's a pairing or a grouping that makes sense. He would certainly fit into that franchise and ethos. He's tried to go it kind of alone for many, many years, or just with sort of a second level star, and having a team where he's not the only first level star is really what he needs. So Miami is a good fit there as well. In terms of the Blazers taking a subpar trade package to make that happen, I don't think the feeling around the NBA is, oh yeah, they should do right by Dame and kind of mess up their franchise for the next, 5 or 6 years so that he can be with the one team that he prefers. I think the obligation is to get the best trade package they can. And I think they will try to send him to a contender, whether that is Miami, whether that is Philadelphia, whether that is somewhere else, with the idea of, hey, they don't want to send him to purgatory. They don't want to send him to another team where he'll be around a bunch of youngsters and rebuilding. But Miami is not the only team they could send him to where he would still be in a good situation. And I think they have to balance all of that with what they're being offered.
Can you take me, Rachel? Like the NBA media storm is so crazy, especially now. We're following everything every second. Now there's new platforms. There's Threads. There's Twitter.
I know.
It's like you can't keep up. But you've been in this before, where take me to the Jimmy Butler thing, where it was Minnesota, and we were all thrilled about that because that was a Miami connection when that was going down.
Absolutely.
How do you handle all that as one of the biggest names in the NBA media wise? Like knowing that is a game that teams like to play with leverage and all that. How does one, I guess, take in all of the stuff when that there's a big media storm around something like this?
Yeah, I think one thing to remember is that often agents and teams are trying to get certain messages out through the media. So certain media members are going to, be carriers of that message. And you just kind of have to realize that everything else on the internet, take it with a grain of salt and just realize that, there's a lot of opinions and a lot of plays going on out there. It's like a giant game of poker, and everyone's trying to see how many chips they can lure into the pot. And that's what a lot of this pre-trade posturing is. And it works the same. It's not a rip on anyone. It's literally the system. It's how it works. And it works the same way in free agency, and it works the same way before the draft. And, teams are kind of trying to play poker and with each other and see who's holding what cards. And this is part of the process.
could you like take us into like for example, you're you know, when you're hosting on something daily on something like that, like
Mhm.
will you get stuff from teams like that just like when you guys get off the air because they want to go win the leverage game? Because that's what it kind of feels like for everybody here. We're all like, well, I don't know who to believe is what Woj is saying, what Shams is saying, what whoever
Mhm.
the names are. But like, what is that like? I guess from the team perspective, when you're a media member, are you getting that in a trade demand? Are you getting that kind of stuff like every day of a team trying to win the leverage game?
Yeah, I mean, you hear from agents, you hear from teams, but I just think as people or fans are following things, it's not that hard. The situation with Dame and what Miami is positioned to do is pretty clear, right? We know because they don't. Miami doesn't have a ton of choices about what they can throw into a trade package. The draft picks are limited because they've already owed something to Oklahoma City. There's something called the Stepien rule where you can't give draft picks in subsequent years. So they really can only offer 2 first-round draft picks going up to 2030. They would like to. They obviously need to make the money work of Dame coming in, which means that Tyler Hero is going to have to come off the books. But Tyler Hero is not a good fit in Portland in terms of what they have and the salary they want to have coming in. So they would need to have a third team involved, probably to take Tyler Hero and also give Portland the first round draft picks that Miami can't. So it's not really who's reporting what with that. That's what we know. We all know that. We see what they have. And then the question is, can they get that third team involved? And will a third team prefer to get involved with Philadelphia that is also interested in getting him, or some of the other teams that are also interested in getting him? It's not that often that a player of Damian Lillard's caliber becomes, quote, available, right? I mean, we saw even with Bradley Beal earlier this summer, he had a no trade clause. So he could pretty much dictate where he wanted to go. He wasn't really available for the other teams. So when a guy like Dame becomes available, you have a bunch of teams that say, okay, we want to at least make a try to get him here. Or if not, we want to be the team that's the third team or the fourth team in. And who can we get the most for ourselves by just being involved in this trade? And that's really where sort of the game of poker is being played right now. But in terms of who to believe, it's, we all know what everybody has. So it's just a little bit of a matter of how much pressure they feel to make the trade and when.
What if it does go down and Damian Lillard does come down to the Miami
Mm-hmm.
Heat, joins up with Jimmy and Bam, and then figure out the other stuff because there's so many mechanisms it can go. But let's just say that trio. How do you
Mm-hmm.
think that stacks up with just as far as the rest of the league concerned? What kind of a contender could they be?
Oh, I would be very scared of that team if I was another team in the East. I mean, for sure. Just the combination of those players, how they fit together, Dame's work ethic, the way he sort of gives himself to a franchise, the way the Miami Heat require that of their players. I mean, there's a great expression, around Heat circles. Jimmy certainly said it himself. We're not for everyone. You've heard Spo say that a bunch of times. We're not for everyone. We're for the people who get us and who we get. And that's an interesting thing in Miami. And we've seen guys who it hasn't worked out for, but the guys it does, I mean, they find a home and works out sort of astronomically better, than it would with other teams. Because if you are the kind of player who works with the Miami Heat system, you can really be maximized. You can sort of multiply what you were able to do that you would with another team. And in my opinion, Damian Lillard is absolutely that kind of player and will absolutely fit in so well with the organization. And frankly, has spent the time going in the other way. He's not going to be saying, I need to be the guy. I need to score all the points, because he's had years of being the guy and scoring all the points. If he wanted to stay doing that, he can stay very comfortably in Portland. So he's obviously looking for something that isn't that. And I think that is going to make him fit really well into this Heat roster and that Heat system.
What have you made of the Jimmy Butler era so far in Miami? I mean, what he did last year, especially like right out of the gate, the haymakers that he threw at Milwaukee and the way that he made that building on fire. It was crazy, a crazy atmosphere when he did that. But what have you, as Jimmy in Miami, has it exceeded your expectations? Has he been about what you thought he would be? Because I think for all of us, we expected Jimmy Butler, a really good player. I don't think I even expected what he has been so far down here.
I mean, look, Jimmy's entire career has been about exceeding expectations. Remember where he was drafted. Remember how the Bulls undervalued him. Remember how even the Timberwolves undervalued him. And I have watched him. I mean, the reason that I know Jimmy so well is that I covered him when he was a rookie with Chicago, and I watched him in practices and thought, why isn't this guy playing more? You just saw teams not quite get him. And over the years, as he's gone to different places, more teams have gotten him and more fans have gotten who he is. But I really think it took Miami to unlock that idea of, we understand what we have here and we are going to throw everything at him to maximize him and help him. And frankly, Jimmy is the kind of guy who, again, fits into this Heat system so well. And he likes to say there's no playoff Jimmy, but to me, and this goes with a bunch of guys around the league, we saw with with the Denver Nuggets and Jamal Murray saying, no, there's no bubble Jamal Murray. There's no playoff Jimmy. Look, if certain occasions mean that you rise to the occasion, there's nothing wrong with that. What you don't want to be is regular season player. You don't want to be regular season Jamal Murray or regular season Jimmy. If you're playoff Jimmy or playoff Jamal Murray, that's a good thing. And we've seen that from Jimmy time and time again. And I would expect nothing less these next playoffs, whether he's got Damian Lillard there or not.
Yeah, that's a cute act he likes to play. Like, he'll act the same in the locker room like every game, but like when he's tormenting guys and the trash talk that he throws in the playoff, I'm like, nah, that's not something we see during rando Magic game during the season. That's a different.
By the way, yeah, I mean, that's smart too. I mean, that's one of the things too that I know players kind of take offense to this. And again, I saw this with Jamal Murray all the way throughout and going through the finals. Players kind of take offense to this idea that they don't give the equal amount of 110% every game. And I get it. But the truth is, especially as you age, it is smart to pick your spots. If you don't pick your spots, you will not play well at the times that you need to, because you won't have it at the end. Your gas tank will run out. And the best player ever at picking his spots is Kawhi Leonard. And obviously there's a whole bunch of other things around that. But if you look at his 2019 title with the Raptors, that is the best picking your spots example of a player who knew how to get to the end. With the limited amount of body energy he had, because he was nursing a pretty serious injury. And he just didn't play as strong or as hard during the regular season. And there were even times during games you could see that he would go 3 quarters playing at one level, and then the fourth quarter, he would purposely ramp it up to the other level. And I think Jimmy's been able to do that throughout with sort of his seasons and kind of figuring out when he needs to be who for what, where. And I think it's an admirable trait for all the guys who do it. I think it just means that you are savvy, you've been around the game long enough. I'm talking about all guys who are sort of over 30 and watching what's going to happen to their bodies and being smart. And I think that's another thing the Heat as an organization are good with. For as much as they have a reputation about riding guys and body fat percentages and all of that, they are very, very savvy about injuries, how to manage guys who, may be nursing one thing or another, and maximizing their players to be in the right position at the right time of year. And we've seen it again and again. That's why the organization as a whole, I think, has missed the playoffs, 3 times in 15 years? That's exceptional.
They really have been doing it right. A couple before we get you out of here, Rachel. Rachel Nichols joining us here. Really appreciate the time. What do you have on the horizon for headliners? Really enjoyed your interview with Dwayne Wade, of course, a legend down here. What do you got that you're excited about that's coming up soon?
Yes, this is something I have to get used to on premium cable. Like, how on Showtime, HBO, they kind of release things in flights, right? They'll be like, here's 6 episodes, and then we'll take a break, and then here's the next 6 episodes. So our next flight of headliners is going to be this fall. I'm really excited about it. But immediately a lot closer on the horizon is Summer League. I will be there starting tomorrow. We're going to have coverage for Showtime, and really, Victor Wembanyama is going to debut. I think it's going to be an exciting thing with things popping off, and we've gotten some big trades happening during Summer League. You get all those executives together, so maybe that's the time we see something happen with Dame. We'll have to find out.
Yes, I know. I'm watching all these Summer League games, watching Nikola Jovic, and I'm very excited for him, but I don't know if I'm excited for him for being a Blazer or if I'm excited that he's going to be playing. And just before we get to, is there anything else this summer that is like that, besides the Damian Lillard, which I think is obviously the biggest story of the NBA summer? Was there one, a transaction or a looming transaction that you kind of got your eye on, or just that had you the most interested?
I mean, I'm very interested in sort of all the shuffling that's going on in the West. I think the Denver Nuggets really put teams on notice with the way they ran through the playoffs this year. And, you saw LeBron after that Western Conference Final series and sort of being, people may, oh, yeah, he's not really going to retire. And by the way, I don't think I think there's, what's less than 0.001% chance that he retires. But I understand the feeling after playing that Nuggets team of feeling, well, what changes could we possibly make this summer? Like, what could we do to battle that team? Because they are just such a complete team. And I think that now that everyone's had a chance to take a step back and you look at the moves that the Lakers made, look at the moves that the Suns made, some of the other powerhouse teams in the West, they are trying to gear up in the arm race against the Nuggets. Teams have sort of retreated and figured out what they might be able to do. And I think it's fascinating to watch that. Now, you guys in the East, you won't have to deal with that until you get to the NBA Finals. And at that point, it's a good problem to have. But for the West, I think it's going to be a dogfight this season. And I've loved seeing how teams have sort of mixed their rosters around. I'm especially interested in what happens in Phoenix. I think that trio is going to be incredible, but they've got to get the depth and defense. So we'll just see where it all shakes out. But I think it is going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, Denver was demoralizingly good in the finals. It was
It was just like insane, right?
Yeah, because it's just like Miami the entire time felt like they had the fourth quarter answer for everybody, and then that damn Jokic, just him, or then Murray would just hit like this crowd silencing shot. I'm just like, damn, these guys are like, Miami's run was magical, but those guys, I mean, they really deserved it. They were by far the best team this year.
Yeah, and by the way, it's always just a good reminder too. That team has been thinking that they were ready for probably 3 years now, right? They've had just different things that have befallen them different years. Certainly the biggest one being Jamal Murray tearing his ACL, where they thought they were poised to go on this run to the NBA Finals and win it. And something happened and they didn't. And then they finally did. So you have a team like the Heat that has been to all of these NBA Finals in the past few years. And you can, it doesn't have to feel like that's been the peak, is that there's a lot of teams that got there a few times or got close a few times or got to the conference finals a few times and then sort of were able to break through. And certainly Damian Lillard will help if that's what happens.
Certainly will. Go catch Rachel Nichols' work with Showtime Basketball. Rachel, thank you so much for giving us so much time.
Is this the time that I should say I also am on Threads now?
Yes,
right?
You should. Are you on Threads? You on Threads right away? I felt like it was very easy to sign up. I like that.
It was. It's funny. I will say the first day it was available to media people and things like that, I was just I had that fatigue. Do you guys have that? Do you have that like social media fatigue of like how many new platforms can there be? And I feel like, especially since Elon Musk took over Twitter, there's been a million apps that people are like, no, this is the new Twitter. This is the new Twitter. And I was just like, this will come and go. But then I actually signed up for it and I thought, this is pretty good. So we'll see.
I was so mad at Elon Musk this weekend because he pulled his rate limit shenanigans the day that the trade request happened. And I was like, this feels like a trick to get $11 out of me. I'm so mad.
Yep.
But yeah, it's look, we'll give it a shot. I can't act like I'm not going to do it because I got to follow, what cryptic post Tyler Heroes saying on Instagram too. So like I have to be on it to check it out. But Rachel, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much. And appreciate all your work. Thank you so much.
Always good to talk to you guys. Have a great day.
All right. Take care.